Okay, this is the video overview for circuit number 1 for our all equipment circuit, right? So if you're choosing this, hopefully that means you have most of, or if not all of, a stability ball, dumbbells or kettlebells, and some variations of a bands or bands. So you could do this circuit without having all of those things, and you could probably get creative and tweak some of those things, but ideally if you have access to a lot of that, this is the one that you're choosing. If you don't, what I would suggest is go to one of the others, the dumbbell only, the band only, or the body weight. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a couple of things first, and then I'm going to review the exercises. Hopefully we're familiar with a lot of them. We just need to refresh on technique and stuff like that, and then we'll be good to go. So just remember, safety first. So like I'm in my basement right now, and you're going to see me anchoring stuff to a post or in my basement. If you're doing that, and you will need to do that for some of these exercises like the dumbbell swings or the pull downs, whatever you're anchoring it to, just make sure you're being safe, right? You're not going to break something in your house, or you're not going to pull something on top of you, or you're not going to have a band fly off and whack you in the face. We want to go work out. I encourage you to make it work with what you have and be creative, but within reason, right? Obviously, be safe. The other thing is as far as the program is concerned, the rep ranges, the suggested rep ranges that are on there. For example, like it says 8 to 10 of something, right? Because you only have a certain amount of dumbbell weight, for example, that only go up to a certain weight, and you do 12 reps of something. So if you're doing a dumbbell bench and you get to 12 reps and it's super easy, you can do double that. Well, then do double, right? So that's kind of like the sweet spot, or the best case scenario, as far as if you have the right weight or bands that match up with your current ability or skill level, but don't feel confined by that, right? So there's suggestions, but you should go beyond those rep ranges to get the full benefit from the workout, right? Just remember not to overdo it within one exercise, right? So we're not totally burning ourselves out in the middle of a circuit or in the first round or two. Now the third round's a little different. If you want to push the pedal to the floor and really push yourself there, that's different, okay? But remember, that's part of the kind of the strategy that is involved in doing a circuit. Okay, so with that being said, now I'm going to review all the exercises. Like a lot of things, we're going to start with a core exercise, kind of like a kickoff, okay? But just make sure we're nice and warm before we get started, right? We've done some type of warm-up. So the first thing you're going to see on there are stability ball planks. Again, we could do these a bunch of different ways to match up, right? We can do them with our feet elevated, right, behind us. We could do them from the floor, okay, here. We could do them, we could add knee tucks, we could add push-outs. So you could do a lot of different variations here. The idea is make it challenging, but don't overdo it, right? Remember, it's kind of like a starter, so you don't want to like completely annihilate yourself on that first exercise, okay? But just like any of our hovers or our plank exercises, we want to keep that core contracted. We don't want our hips to either sag or push our butt up in the air. Nice, flat back, and we want to control our breathing. Good, even breathing. All right, so our next one is our floor rows. So this is a challenging exercise, and that's kind of like why I wanted to put it earlier in the circuit. Now, when we do this, you want to think of it as like a full body exercise, right? You can do this, and sometimes I see us try to do this in the weight room where we're perfectly straight, like we're top of a push-up, and we're just pulling up and isolating. I would suggest doing it in a more sports-specific way so we get more of a full body exercise. What I mean is so we're incorporating our hips, right? And we do that simply by cheating our feet up, okay, a little bit closer to the dumbbells here. So what this looks like, I'm almost in like a bear crawl position, right? I still have a flat back, and from this camera angle, you can probably actually see it really well. So I still want to maintain that, even my hips, I'm elevating my hips, right? My back is still flat, just like it would be on a 3-point row, right? So once I'm here, what I want to try to do is turn those hips a little bit, even maybe prop up on the balls of my feet, and then I'm rowing up, right? I'm squeezing right into my chest, the same spot as I would on a 3-point row. The other common mistake I see when we do this is we want to let the dumbbells, okay, get out in front of us like this, like they're in front of our face. So as we pull, we're almost swaying it back or doing like a cycling motion, or like pulling it up into our chin, right? That's really tough on your shoulders, especially depending on the amount of weight we're doing, right? So make sure it's staying underneath your chest. It should have the same feel as we're doing like a regular, one of our regular 3-point rows where we're right here, right? Flat back. But think of it as a full body exercise. Try to get those hips going, try to get a good tempo, but make sure to breathe, right? I see us getting red in the face a lot when we do that because we're holding our breath. So breathe, whole body. Okay, our next one is our band resisted dumbbell swings. So for those, you could do a regular dumbbell swing, okay? But thinking if you do have access, you're fortunate enough to have access to both dumbbells and bands, I would say, let's add the band component. But just remember, like, you need to be strategic in that, right? So you shouldn't use, especially because of the circuit, a heavy dumbbell and a thick band. And if you only have one or the other, maybe you kind of play opposite each other, right? A thinner band, heavier weight, or vice versa, right? So remember, we're just gonna get inside of it. I would suggest a low anchor, okay? Like anchoring it pretty low. But just remember, whenever you're getting inside the band exercises, tie your shorts to your pants first. I know that seems like a silly thing to remind you of, but it's kind of frustrating when you go to do it, the exercises, and your pants are sliding up and down, right? So it just, it's disruptive to the set. Just a little thing to make note of, okay? But when we do our dumbbell swings, there's kind of two different approaches to them. There's what I would call the more of a hip hinge kind of approach versus more of like a posterior chain or like a kind of an RDL approach to it, right? So for this, we want to do what we refer to more as a hip hinge. What that means is we're doing that for a more deeper squat with a hip extension, right? With that pop, thrusting those hips at the top, right? And a lot of times these are like a replacement exercise for hang cleans, right? So since a lot of us can't hang clean right now, we want to get more of that full depth, right? That good depth and that full hip extension, right? That full range of motion there. So remember, just think of the dumbbell as an extension of your arms. All of the energy to move that weight is coming from your lower half, by that sitting and that thrusting and extending up, right? As opposed to, I see some of us try to do it this way sometimes, more of the RDL, where I'm kind of just unhinging my hips forward and backwards and thrusting forward, right? With more focusing on that deceleration part of it, okay? But we want to have a good pop. We want to focus more on the out during these dumbbell swings, okay? So they should be nice and fluid, one into the next there, okay? Remember, the other thing with the band is move out this way to make it harder, move this way to make it easier, but watch getting too close to this, right? Because we don't want to bump into it or have it restrict our hips going back, okay? Next one is our stability ball dumbbell bench. Not going to spend a lot of time reviewing this one, okay? This should be one we're very familiar with. Just make sure, listen, and if you can't do it on a stability ball or maybe you don't have a stability ball to do it on, you could lay on like a cooler or assemble your own bench, 2 chairs and a board. But more than likely, if you're picking this circuit, you have a stability ball to use. And if that's the case, we want to roll out away from the ball, right? So right now, my hips are locked out, right? So this is making me engage my lower half, making me engage my core, okay? And then I'm doing the benching, right? So a lot of times we lay on it like this, kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because it's supporting our core. Or we see this in the living room, right? Our hips are sagging, and it essentially becomes more of an incline, right? So we want to move those feet and my butt away from the ball, so my shoulders and neck and head are resting on the ball, locking out those hips, and then I'm doing my bench press. Just be aware, especially, I've made note of this in the other circuits, if you don't have a spotter, you're working out by yourself, just watch pushing yourselves on the bench exercise here, okay? Because a lot of times that's when, we want to tweak our shoulder or our elbow, going for that last rep or two. And we don't have a spotter there to help, that we're more susceptible to that, or just dropping it on the floor if we're exhausted, right? Dropping it on your foot. Just be smart with that one, especially because we're using the stability ball here, okay? The next one is our dumbbell squat. So I'm going to show these with the dumbbell, but then I'm going to also show how you can add a band component too. And again, if we have access to that, it might be a different approach. You could actually combine both together. It takes a little bit of coordination, but definitely can do it. So just remember, with our squat, right, whether we're using dumbbells, bands, both, we are in that nice wide position. So for this, I'm using a cooler. what I suggest, like this is the coolers I found work really well actually, except for when it was empty, right? I would suggest putting some weight inside of it. It keeps it from sliding. It also makes it a little less likely to tip over, I found. So I just threw some free weights in there, some plates in there just to weigh it down a little bit, but I found that helps a lot, okay? So once we get that back foot propped up, we're hopping out, all our weights on this down heel. We just wanna make sure that knee isn't going over that toe, and we're going down with our good depth, right? With our proud chest. So if we have a mirror in front of us, ideally we could read the top of that t-shirt as we're going, right? So each time we're doing this, we're doing all one leg and then the other. So how do we add the dumbbells? A couple different ways, right? We can hold them at our sides, right? We can hold them at our sides and do it this way. We can put them on our shoulders, doing this way. Just be careful not to let your chest collapse forward if you're doing that version. We can do it goblet style, right? So I'm holding it in that goblet position, essentially just adding more body weight to it, okay? Or I can do it with a band. So how does that work, right? Put it under my foot, take the slack up over my shoulders. It's actually, I don't know how well you can see this on the video, but it's actually pretty similar to where the bar would be if I was squatting on my back, on the back of my shoulders, right? So from there, actually let me switch feet so you can see this a little bit better, okay? Prop that foot up, and again, here I am. Now that's providing the resistance here. So I can even add the dumbbells here if I wanted to. Hold dumbbells at my side and add this, okay? So again, since you're fortunate enough, if you're watching this, to have access to most of the things that we would typically use, don't be afraid to get creative and match up the stimulus with your ability, okay? Our next one is our front plank band pull downs, okay? Again, one of my favorites, combination exercise, right? So we're combining a front plank or front hover with a single arm pull down, right? So the big thing on this is lock in the body posture first, but make sure you're far enough away from the anchor that there's tension throughout. Okay, so what I mean by that is we don't want to start too close. So right now there's no slack. So I don't get tension until I'm about halfway through my pull down, right? That's not really ideally what we're looking for, okay? Instead, I want to back up a little bit. So when I start this, once I get in my plank position, there's tension right now. Now I'm squeezing down, okay? And as I'm doing that exercise, as I'm doing those reps, right, that belly button is straight down the whole time, okay? Again, all one side than the other, okay? Our next one is our band walk. So I would suggest not getting or using too thick of a band with this, if possible, right? So probably a thin or maybe a medium, okay? But you don't want to get too crazy with this. The other thing is, normally in the weight room we say, hey, up the incline is 1 rep. So since we don't have that landmark as a cue, you're just going to do that for X amount of steps, right? So 4 steps, 6 steps, 8 steps, 10 steps, one side and then the other, okay? So this one is all about posture, right? So don't try to rush these. This is that one where actually a slower tempo is better. So I'm gonna start wide, right? So there's already tension, right? We don't want any slack at any point. So I'm already starting with tension and then I'm widening and then coming back to that starting point, okay? And I'm widening and coming back, right? So some of us like to get a little bit of a deeper squat, some of us stand a little bit more upright. What I would say for this one is try to kind of find, as far as your depth, match it up with what you do in the field, right? So, you know, if you're maybe a defensive back and you tend to be a little bit more deeper in your stance, right? And that's more specific. Or maybe you're a baseball outfielder and you tend to be a little bit more upright, okay? Again, I would suggest trying to match up your depth there or your upper body posture with what you do on the field, okay? But again, wide to wider is what we want with the footwork there. We're gonna go X amount of steps to the one side, X amount of steps back, and that is your set, okay? Next one is our band resisted push-ups. So for these, again, I comment on this whenever push-ups appear. Choose a push-up that's challenging and that works for you. Don't feel like you have to do the exact one. So you know, the band resisted ones, you know, what we're trying to accomplish is, again, adding a little extra resistance to a regular push-up, right? So I accomplished that, and I'll review these quickly. put it through my palms, wrap it up around my back. Just make sure, so when we usually, as far as range of motion is concerned, when we use the bands, we're usually pretty good at the bottom. What that means is that band usually wants to pull us all the way down. It's the top part, it's that extension all the way at the top, especially when we start the fatigue, that we want to cheat, right? And it's not the end of the world if we're cheating a little bit on those last couple reps if we're really trying to fight through. But just, especially during that first half, the first 2/3 of the set, try to really get that good full extension if we're utilizing that. But what I would say is, you want to do a different type of push-up, you want to just do a body weight one, or it is too challenging to use the band, right? Maybe we're more of a novice category for our push-up ability. That's fine. Do different versions of the push-up. Find a push-up that matches up for you. And even if you need to make it more simple and give yourself some symptoms, put that towel or a ball underneath your chest to restrict your depth. That's fine. Okay, so we have band push-ups on the program there, but don't be scared to kind of stretch. Do your own push-up variations during that. Okay, if you're choosing, and mix it up. Maybe do a different one each week, right? All right, so the next one is our stability ball heel tucks. So for this, you could do I would say, if you did the first 6 weeks, the double leg version that I'm going to show you here first, and you increase the reps, and you're like, all right, I'm crushing these, maybe they're getting too easy, right? Then I would move on to the single leg version, which I'll also let demo, okay? But if not, sticking with the double leg, the traditional, is fine too, okay? So the keys here are, okay, once we extend out, right, my hips are locked out, everything's straight right here. As I roll that ball towards my butt, I want to finish with my toes on the ball. A lot of times we finish here with our heels, right? So my toes are off the ball. By finishing onto our toes, it gets the full length of our hamstring, and even into the top, the bottom of our hamstring into the top of our calf here, okay? But again, and that plantar flexion, right, as I push through the ball of my foot, that's much more specific and connects to your running, really regardless of what sport you play, right? So again, we don't encourage heel striking, right? We're not trying to heel strike, we're trying to drive out the ball of that foot. So when we're doing our heel tucks, it's important to finish on that front third of your foot, or on the toe of your foot, okay? So that's the double leg version. We can also do the single leg version. Now these, you might find are a lot harder, right? So what you do with that opposite leg is up to you. Some prefer to crunch, some want to leave it straight out, but just so now we're isolating that leg, right? So it's gonna make it significantly harder. So if you're making the transition from the double to the single, maybe take it easy on the reps the first time, so you get a good feel for it and how much more challenging it is, okay? So that just goes through the 9 exercises. Remember, do your 9 exercises. That's when we take a break. Then we do the second round and same 9 exercises. Then we take another break, and then we finish with our last round of those 9 exercises. And then we do our core, right? So you don't want to do the core in the middle. The core is kind of like a finisher for the end. So what do we have for core? 2 stability ball exercises. We have our stability ball L foot swings and our stability ball knee tucks, okay? So you can do the L foot swings normally without a stability ball, okay? The form is exactly the same, right? I like incorporating the stability ball to it because it makes you squeeze the ball a little bit, and that engages your glutes and gets some other those what I would say non-traditional core muscles firing. Okay, so whether we're doing it with the ball or on air, remember our L foot swings, our heels are straight up, my palms are into the ground, I'm going directly to the side, not at an angle, right? Come on, tight hamstring crowd, okay? Keep those legs straight up, right? Those heels straight up toward the ceiling. If I have the stability ball, it's the same motion, I'm just holding this guy with a light squeeze. I'm not trying to pop it or anything, right? Just holding it solidly in between, okay, my feet here. And again, I'm just engaging some other muscles that I might not be if I wasn't holding on to that ball, okay? And then, lost my ball here. Our last one is our knee tucks, okay? So for this one, you just want to make sure you're in a good push-up, top of a push-up position first, okay? Once you're in that position, then we'll worry about getting that good high knee drive, but breathe. More so than maybe any of our exercises, when we do this in our jackknife, tend to see us hold our breath and really get red in the face. Breathe. Again, whole body working here. So I'm gonna get down in this ball, I'm gonna get a good balance point at the top of the push-up, and then I'm driving my knees up here. Okay, so nice and high. I can even move to a single leg version, okay? And I could drive that single leg up, okay? Going here, right? Drive that single leg up. But initially, I would start with the double, bring both up. You can even work in the jackknife if you want to here, push your butt up in the air. Alternate, kind of like we would do if we were hanging on the TRX straps in the weight room. Again, mix and match, be creative, okay? Give yourself something challenging to do, all right? So, just reviewed all 9 exercises, just reviewed the 2 core exercises. Any questions, hit us up. If not, let's get after it. Go Lehigh.